Kyle Bradshaw from Cruiser Customizing, Greg Beck from Tuckeraki with episode 7 of Wednesday with Greg.
Today we're going to talk about planning for a trip, for an adventure.
In just 2 days, Greg and I are going to take off and head down to Southern California, and then we're going to cross the Mexican border and enter Baja, California.
We're going to start off at a place called Hacienda Santa Veronica, one of my favorite motels. It's out in the middle of nowhere, and they look for clients of motorcyclists and for off-roaders.
So what are some of the things, Ray, that you've done in preparation of this trip so that you know that you're going to have the necessary necessities in order to be able to make the trip happen?
First thing is check my passport, make sure it's still valid, because you ain't getting back without the passport.
All right. How about the motorcycle goes? Getting the motorcycle and the gear set up and ready to go?
First thing I do is I check the tires, make sure my Dunlops are ready to rock. This is going to be a lot off-road, so it's knobbies. Check the oil, obviously. I go over nuts and bolts. I like to make sure that everything, check the function. I do a little test ride around town just to make sure everything's good. And then when I start to pack the gear, I think, well, who's going to go with me? What are we all riding? And I call them up and say, okay, I'm going to take the tubes, you take a couple tie downs, you take this. So we split the load up between us because it's kind of silly to carry duplicates of everything.
Mm-hmm. Another thing, Greg, that I like to take a look at is the weather. What is the forecasted weather for this particular trip? Is it going to be warm, cold? Now, the one thing you really need to do is not focus solely on the forecast, but what can happen. It can get cold and can snow. It can rain. It can be hot and miserable. Yeah. So you've got to be able to dress appropriately. And usually 2 sets of apparel is a good option. Good
way to go. I always go prepared for extremes. I've been to the same place before in the same time frame and been snowed in, road closed. The next day we ride over the pass and we drop it down to the sea level. It's 80 degrees.
Now the one thing to keep in mind is we're all on motorcycles, so our carrying capacity is quite limited. So for this particular adventure, I'm going to take a set of overpants that has a zip-in liner. I'm also going to take a pair of gloves that allows me to have ventilation, and then another one for cold weather.
Yep, me too. I take my electric gloves, my electric liner, my vented gloves. My jacket opens up so I can be vented, because when you get down to sea level, it could be toasty.
So layers are extremely important when talking about motorcycle apparel and being able to handle lots of various temperatures.
You never know. Not what the weather, where you're at, it's where you're going, and that can change in a heartbeat.
Now how about luggage, Greg?
Luggage, on my bike I have the aluminum bags. If I was going strictly off-road, I wouldn't take them because they're kind of heavy. But for this trip I'm taking them, and then I have a ATV bag I put on the top to carry extra things that I want to get to quickly.
So before any major trip, you need to make sure you do your pre-trip inspection on the motorcycle, make sure everything's functioning. Make sure that you know the weather of where you're going, you have appropriate apparel. Make sure you've got proper tools in order to get you out of any situation you might get yourself into. There's a couple of necessities that you need to take a look at when choosing to take a long distance trip.